I'm going to call the meeting to order and ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
Oh my God.
Councilmember Little will be arriving shortly.
Will he be a little late?
He will be arriving shortly.
Joking.
Councilmember Sander is absent this evening. Councilmember Budge,
I'm here.
Vice Mayor Gatewood,
Yep.
Mayor Pulapati.
Here. I'm going to ask the city clerk to announce the meeting video recording and playback schedule.
The meeting of the Rancho Cordova City Council is recorded with closed captioning. The recording will be cablecast on Metro Cable Channel 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast and Direct TV Uverse cable systems. The recording will also be video streamed at metro14live.saccounty.gov. Today's meeting will also replay on Monday, April 28th at 1 p.m. and Wednesday, April 30th at 6 p.m. on Metro Cable Channel 14. Once posted, the recording of this meeting can also be viewed on demand at youtube.com/MetroCable14 and on the city's website.
Do we have anyone from the Sons of the American Revolution here?
We do not, sorry, that is my
If
mistake.
not, I would request Mita to come and lead the pledge for us today.
All right.
You could do it from there.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I now invite everybody to remain standing as we have the invocation from Ruby Smallwood with the Sacramento Sheriff Chaplaincy.
I would like to take a moment. We are saddened by the loss of Pope Francis and would like to recognize him as he served his community as a Catholic in the Catholic faith for 56 years. He was Pope for 12 years. What an inspiration and impacting the world and the hurting and the poor. Please pray with me. Gracious Father, may this evening works have blessing of your touch. Anoint the plans that even the smallest of tasks set before us brings you honor. May all the work and service we do and the way we do it bless you and those we serve. Bless this council and the community they serve with wisdom, discernment, commitment, courage, and strength. Continue to cover them with your peace, love, and guidance. May all things be rooted in your unbiased love and attention. May your influence be in our lives, this council, and our beloved community. Amen.
Thank you. Next, we move on to presentations, and I call on Joshua Ta and Akila Williams of Project Centennial for the proclamation presentation of Fair Housing Month. Okay. Okay. No worries. So this proclamation is from the city of Rancho, Cordova, recognizing April as Fair Housing Month. Adequate housing is a basic need and right of all people. And this year, we celebrate the 57th anniversary of the enactment of the Federal Fair Housing Act of 1968, which states that discrimination in the sale and rental of housing is illegal when based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. And you all know that housing is the first step to success. And because of this, a lot of people have now we are now working on equality and equity, and this is a first step towards that. So the city of Rancho Cordova recognizes April as a Fair Housing Month and do encourage all residents and community organizations to celebrate the value of harmonious and diverse communities of neighbors and to support the goal of equal housing opportunity for all people. Here you go. Thank you. Do you want? Go ahead.
Thank you. Hi. Sorry. Yep. So thank you to the mayor and the city council. So as the mayor introduced before, my name is Josh, and I'm here to represent Project Sentinel tonight to accept this proclamation. And I once again sincerely thank the mayor and the city council for recognizing April as a Fair Housing Month and for your commitment to the principle of fairness and inclusion. Housing is not just about shelter. It is about safety, dignity, and the ability to build a future. It is about the foundation upon which health, education, opportunities, and hope itself. Yet, across the country and within our own community, barriers to fair housing persist. Discrimination is not always visible, but its consequences are profound. It can drive families into instability, force people into unsafe conditions, and widen inequality that stretches across generation. It can leave scars, not just on the individual, but on the strength and spirit of entire communities. So tonight, proclamation matters because it affirms a simple but powerful truth that whoever you are should never determine whether you have a place to go home. And by standing up for housing, Rancho Cordova ensures that these values are not just a line on a word on a piece of paper, but a living promise made real through action, partnership, and persistence throughout the year. So we are deeply grateful for your support. And we look forward to continuing this work together as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. We now move on to our next topic, Sacramento Area Council of Governments Long Range Transportation Plan Presentation. SACOG STA, that's what it usually reads out as. But James, you're up for the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor Pillipati. Council members, really great to be here. James Corliss, Executive Director of the Sacramento Area Council of Governments, or SACOG. I think I was here a little over 2 years ago kicking off this long-range plan, and we're now in the home stretch. So I wanted to come and give you a little bit of an update about what this plan is, why it's important, what it says, and how we really are all going to aim to use it in the years ahead, especially as we do things like prepare to go back to Washington, D.C. and go back to cap and lobby for funding. So the SACOG region is 6 counties and 22 cities. Councilmember Sanders sits on the SACOG Board of Directors, but so does every single jurisdiction in our region. And it's one of the things that makes our region very special. Every single jurisdiction, every city, every county has a seat at that table. And one of the things that SACOG is tasked with is to develop a long-range plan for transportation, land use, housing, and jobs. It starts with your general plans and it rolls up. And we are required to do this. So we look out 25 years, the year 2050, and we forecast population and jobs. And when on top of that, we look at transportation investments and what we'll need. In the next 25 years, we start with the triple bottom line of equity, economic prosperity, and a sustainable environment that kind of underpins everything we try to do. We've also spent more time and done more outreach in this plan cycle than we've really ever done before on any other plan. We've done all kinds of outreach. We've been to every county multiple times. We've done polling. We've done focus groups. We've done surveys. We had a very large gathering in Folsom 2 years ago. And out of all that public engagement and outreach, we boiled that down into 7 outreach themes. I'm not going to read all of these, but maybe just like your prior resolution, we heard housing loud and clear as one of the big challenges for this region. Housing options for all incomes and life stages. Creating complete communities where people can drive, but also bike and walk and take transit whenever they need to. Supporting safe and convenient transportation options and others. A quote from one of our focus groups, I would love a robust, clean, safe public transportation system. So transportation choices and safety are on top of people's minds. And that's exactly what our survey showed across all 6 counties in terms of the biggest challenges facing the region: affordable housing and the lack of affordable housing, the concern that your kids and grandkids can't afford to live in this region in the next 10, 20, 30 years. Crime and public safety, a lack of transportation choices, and traffic rank up among the top 4. So what have we learned in our technical analysis? We're a region right now of 2.5 million people across all 6 counties, and we're going to grow by another 600,000 by 2050. So if you add that up, that's a metropolitan region of 3.1 million. That's exactly the size of metropolitan Denver today, which is why we took our board of directors back to Denver last summer to look at the decisions that policymakers in Denver made 20 years ago and how those actually influence positively the direction of Denver today. We are, you may know this, the fastest growing region in California. By the last census, we were the fastest growing, and we demographically forecast that we will maintain a faster rate of growth than the state of California statewide and as the U.S., the national average. But it will slow down. As you can see, the green line is the 6-county Sacramento region at the very top there, so the rate of growth is going to slow over the next few decades, but will still be above where California and the U.S. is. And so what does that mean for Rancho Cordova? I mentioned our regional population growing by 600,000 people, 260,000 jobs, and so we will need 278,000 housing units. And I know you know this. You've got a lot of that growth. You got a share of that growth, a healthy share of it, coming here to Rancho Cordova with a 31,200 person population increase forecast over the next 25 years, 17,000 jobs, and 14,000 plus housing units. So what does that mean? It means that we've got to think carefully about a multimodal transportation system. How does that show up in Rancho Cordova? Well, it shows up with a lot of the things I know you talk about here at your council a lot, which is the Mills Crossing station on your light rail line, the Folsom Boulevard specific plan, and bringing revitalization, economic growth back to Folsom Boulevard, the Zinfandel bicycle pedestrian overcrossing, the Rancho Cordova Parkway and interchange, and the Grant Line Road expansion and safety improvements, all ways in which this plan is highlighting projects here in Rancho Cordova. It also means we got to put a lot of focus into growing and revitalizing a lot of our older and existing areas. We have a big emphasis on growing along our transit corridor, so those light rail lines and the bus lines, so the Gold Line, the Blue Line, the Green Line. This is our Green Means Go program here that we developed with all of with your staff here in Rancho, but all the cities and counties. Happy to say that we were successful in securing $34 million to fund water, sewer, and utility upgrades in these green areas, what we call green zones, that you all adopted as a city council. And also that Mills Crossing was one of only 2 projects in this region to win statewide funding awards from HCD for one of those key programs. Another program we've been working on pretty hard in the last year or so is what we call mobility zones. So we've done a very intensive outreach and engagement of community-based organizations, cities and counties all across the 6-county region. We have been very flexible in defining what does a disadvantaged community look like, what are the demographics, what are transportation challenges. 10 of these 23 zones that are highlighted here are going to move forward into a pilot program, and one of those is going to be the Rosemont, Western Rancho Cordova area that we can follow up with you more about that. That's a pretty new and exciting program, and we're excited to sort of see what happens there with a lot of the community engagement here in Rancho. We have a regional trails program. We want to get people out, as you do here in Rancho Cordova, walking and biking safely in wheelchairs and everything else. So we have a plan to connect the entire 6-county region with paved walking and biking trails. You have a lot of them already in Rancho Cordova, but regionally they don't connect. We have a lot of gaps that are missing, and we have a lot of segments of streets that are pretty dangerous that we want to try to provide some safer trail connections. Once completed, this trail plan will basically give you over 1,000 miles of paved trail to connect every corner of the 6-county region. Funding obviously is key. We have a state funding round that's happening right now that your staff is participating in. We have more federal transportation funds coming next year. And of course, we have to compete. The name of the game now is really competing for state and federal funds, whether it's roads, sidewalks, mass transit. We have to use this plan and we have to do our best to compete for a lot of state and federal funds. So this plan, again, looks out over 25 years across 28 jurisdictions. It forecasts that growth of 600,000 people. The plan we're calling 2025 Blueprint will be released for public comment at the end of May, along with the EIR. There'll be 2 months of public comment in June and July. We'll bring that back in August, have a final draft plan to review for our board of directors in September, and final adoption and certification of an EIR, if all goes as scheduled, in November. So we're a 6-county region. We do a lot together that coordinates city to city, but we also, it's really important that we come together across the 6 counties. Our state delegation in the Capitol is bipartisan. Our congressional delegation in the U.S. Capitol is bipartisan. So time to be a team. And you look good in purple. That's the good news. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions and really appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you, James.
I could ask some questions. Given that we're going to review Mills Crossing tonight, I just wondered if the state's program called SES, Sustainable Community Strategy, I think, is still active.
Yeah.
Because this was one of the 5 locations that that the SES, that SACOG originally identified as being part of the SES.
Yes. And that was the map of the green areas was sort of what I was referring to with Mills Crossing. So the last plan that we did had a sustainable community strategy. We developed a program called Green Means Go out of that. Your city participated healthily in that, and Mills Crossing was one of those areas. You won a state grant because your staff is really good at writing grant applications. And you should still be eligible. We're working very hard at the state level to try to get more points, more funding through HCD and other sources. So it is active and live, and that Green Means Go program is going to be carried through that designation into our new plan, the new SCS.
So, so that really rolls over into the whole funding issue. And, you know, given that funding for anything at the federal government is very topsy-turvy right now.
Yeah.
And you talked about Denver earlier, but one of the things that we learned in the study missions to that the Metro Chamber took a couple of times to Denver is that the state of Colorado has this incredibly advantageous ability to pass bonds with a 50+1 vote, as opposed to having to get everybody on board. And they also vote as their 4 or so 6-county region. And some of the projects that they've used these funds for, or that have been voted in for these funds, I mean, they've been incredibly diverse. The very first one they did was for their Natural History Museum. And then they voted on the Pepsi Center, they voted on their beautiful baseball stadium, they voted on the football stadium. And each time, a different county or a different population center voted differently, but the bottom line was it all passed. Oh, at T-Rex, the Highway 25 or whatever that is project down through the center of town. That was a part of it also. So given the uncertainty of federal dollars and California's basic voting challenges, what do you think is a logical way that you can go about funding the 25 years that you expect this plan to last?
It's going to be a challenge. There's no doubt about that. I think we're going to have to try to figure out how to work perhaps to get a lower voting threshold for local self-help measures. We're going to have to figure out how to replace the gas tax because the gas tax is actually declining in terms of revenue. So that has to be replaced. At the federal level, we have to put a really strong bipartisan effort in federally to make sure that the feds don't back away from investment. None of that's easy. Sorry to tell you.
We're sympathetic.
Quick question on the connector, which I believe is Grant Line Road. Do you see any more money, because right now I feel like all the money's gone because the feds have eaten it all, for like dangerous road stuff that like it's a dangerous part of that one curve we have that, well, one of my council members rolled down the hill on. We have a little bit of money to fix it, but do you see any money coming down the lane that would allow us to get, like, if it's a dangerous road and we have a lot of accidents there, that we could like do stuff to fix that? Do
Yeah.
you see that in the
I think that's much more likely in this incoming administration federally. I mean, as you know, Vice Mayor Gatewood, we got the $25 million raise grant. Right now, there's an active application that's one of the SACOG regional priorities for the trade corridor program at the state level. But I think it's very possible to go back federally to make the case around safety, around flooding, around preventing the building the shoulders. So I think that is a possibility.
Because they were also talking about, you're right about the flooding thing, about the backside on that road, about that's the only way out if it starts to flood, and we need to do something on that before it does become a problem.
And I think the approach that the connector, the JPA is using on phasing all the way down to Jackson, I think is the right approach.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Now, we're thankful for the 25 million in grants, but absolutely that is a dangerous road, like Vice Mayor mentioned. And if there's anything that the city can do to expedite getting us more funds in order to make that road safe, not safer, but safe, so we can actually travel on it, please do let us know.
We should be hearing from the state on the trade corridor program pretty soon, which is the 20 million to match the 25. And then after that, I know the staff at the connector has a plan to keep on trying to phase that and get more money in and actually fix the existing alignment.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And I'm sorry about what you attracted in there.
I hope I didn't bring it in.
Council members, any other questions? We thank you for your time.
I just want to thank your staff too, just for being very on top of everything, prioritizing things, knowing how to write great grant applications. So I know you have a good team here, but you've got a good team here. So
we
thanks
do
very
know
much.
it, but we do appreciate.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we move on to public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the council for any matter not on the agenda may do so at this time by completing and submitting a speaker card to the city clerk. For items on the agenda, speakers will be called by the mayor at the point on the agenda when the item will be heard. Speakers are encouraged to keep comments to 3 minutes or less and to state name and community of residence. Under the provisions of the California Government Code, the City Council is prohibited from discussing or taking immediate action on any item not on the agenda unless it can be demonstrated to be of emergency nature or the need to take immediate action arose after the posting of the agenda. And now I can read any credit card disclaimers. Okay, I ask the city clerk to see if we have any public comment.
We have one general public comment. It was emailed to the city clerk's office and the city council. It is from Valerie Knipschild. The council has received that. It's been placed on the city's website, and it's printed in a binder for public comment in the back of the council chambers. That's all the public comment that we have.
Thank you. So we move on to council reports, and I will start with Councilmember Budge.
I attended the fundraiser for the Children's Museum that the current leadership class put on last week. It was very well attended. They're planning, for those of you who don't know, they're planning to build a seat wall out front because they have so many little kids out playing on the grass and attending, and sometimes they get too full. And there's always a need for a place to sit and have lunch. Sacramento County Airports spoke at the, I've got it now, at the Rancho Cordova luncheon last week, and it was absolutely fascinating to hear the kinds of plans that they're talking about at the airport, the expansion that's going on at SMF, and the ways in which we as the traveling public, assuming you've got your real ID, will benefit from that ability. Our Safeway, for those of you who don't shop Safeway, has been under construction for like 3 months, and now they're finally going to have a grand reopening, and I think that's Thursday morning at 8 o'clock. but hopefully everybody got a
I think
coupon.
it's Wednesday.
I'm sorry, you're right, Wednesday, yeah, at 8 o'clock. But everybody should have gotten a coupon. The Regional Transit Real Estate Committee met, and Regional Transit is working to transition out of just the single dispatch location downtown that they have now, and dispatch from downtown Elk Grove and McClellan, and so that there's less of what they call deadheading, where you have to go from one single location all the way out to do your route, and then go all the way back down to whatever your initial point of origin was. And we have a new organization in town, and I've brought stuff to give to Lori Ann, because our Korean community has established an organization of teenagers to volunteer in the community, similar to our mock kids at Cordova High. And one of the things they're working on is a Korean Cultural Festival in Sacramento. It will be, well, actually, it's at KP, and that's going to be held on the 3rd of May in the parking lot at KP. And there's all sorts of cultural demonstrations, a flea market, K-pop, food, fun, etc. Saturday, the 3rd of May, from 10 until 3. And that's my report.
Awesome. Thank you. We'll go to Vice Mayor Gatewood.
All right. Happy Easter. He is risen, and risen indeed. So I had a meeting with the county where I sat with them and asked them to give us back our airport. They told me no. So the good news is that, if everyone at home and everyone that's watching knows, Rancho Cordova basically, the citizens helped to found that airport, and it founded our city from the 80th Air Force Base, and it's ours, and we just wanted it back. The only reason we didn't take it back when we became a city was because we were not ready to create our own airport authority, and I believe that we've proven not only are we financially capable, but we would do the best for our own airport. And so it's great that they're doing a bunch of stuff in SAC-MF, but what I want is my airport back. It represents $4.2 billion of construction and over 3,700 jobs once fully occupied that could be based in the city of Rancho Cordova, plus a ton of land that needs to be developed. And I think it's just time that the city of Rancho Cordova gets to guide its own destiny, seeing that's one of the largest producers of jobs and economic growth in the city. So I'm going to keep working with county supervisors. I can count to 1, but I can't count to 3 yet. And who knows what this next election will bring.
There's a difference.
Yeah, there really is. I just want to say thank you to the Black History Legacy Group for the awards for a Lifetime Achievement Award. I'm only in my 40s, so that's kind of depressing.
Maybe
But
twice.
I'll get it again. I'll go run this thing back. But yeah, thank you for that. It was awesome, and that's it. Thank you.
Councilmember Little.
Hey, nothing much to report other than had a good Lower American River Conservancy meeting. A lot of people up on the stage, and that was down at the new Natural Resources Tower downtown. They've got more money from the state for climate resilient projects, and we need to go after it. That's it.
Thank you. So Councilmember Little and I attended the Islamic event last weekend, and he gave his first proclamation. So congratulations to that. I attended the 50 Corridor TMA meeting, which is a pilot program, but we're trying to make happen for the kids that travel from Rancho Cordova to Elk Grove and are always waiting for the bus here in the city or at the school. So we're trying out a pilot program. So we had a meeting with the Elk Grove school board, the 50 Corridor TMA, and the residents of Rancho Cordova. And they're now taking applications for that program. I attended the Black History Month Gala Awards and got that private personalized and custom award. It's a one-of-a-kind award that Mr. Gatewood got, and the city manager and I attended this really wonderful event.
I am now retired, Joe. Just so you know, I'm done. That's it. It was the Lifetime Achievement Awards, 40 and out. Just so you know, you got 10 more years and then you're done.
Had a meeting with Supervisor Hume, and we talked about the homeless and how we can help from the city in order to elevate some of his efforts on that part. I had a meeting with ITC meeting on from NLC. We talked about the city of Dubuque, in which they had a data center, and what are the impacts of having a data center in the city, what are the pros and cons, and how they used ARPA funds to make their data center. But it was a really good presentation, and I'll pass on some of the notes to our city, because we can always look at ideas and what we can bring into the city. And again, close to my heart, I attended the Folsom Lake College Tech Summit and Hackathon, which is a day focused for college students and high school students on workshops and learning about machine learning, cybersecurity, technology, and innovation. And we talked about how we can use AI for the better and for the future. And so it was a really good event. And thanks to Mrs. Runner, who invited me to that event. And last but not least, I ended Sunday with a classical Indian music show here at City Hall, where it was really nice to see young kids all the way to young adults who have been training in Indian classical music for over 10 years and performing here at City Hall. And that was my update. Passing it on to City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I really echo the statement to celebrating Vice Mayor Gatewood on the honor of the Black Legacy Award. And unfortunately, I think I left right before he got their award, so it was a little sad, and I learned I just missed it. But hopefully he'll share the personalized award look and feel that I missed in that last minute. But really appreciate that, and I actually appreciate Mayor Pulapati recognizing the event at the Tech Week, or the Tech event on Friday. And I think it was Professor Runner, I'll call her, that helped put that on and really supported the community and really the students at Folsom Lake College, which is part of the Rancho Cordova Center, and also the high school students. So thank you for honoring that. And that's it for me.
Absolutely. So Professor Runner will also be helping us with Spring Service Day. So please, if you have any time or any place in your heart, please do volunteer for Spring Service Day. That's coming up in May. With that, I will move on to consent calendar items. Consent calendar items consist of matters deemed routine and non-controversial by staff. Unless a member of the council wishes to pull an item for individual consideration, all items will be approved by one motion. Are there any public comments on consent calendar?
There is not.
Are there any items council wishes to pull from consent calendar?
Hearing none, I will move approval of consent calendar items 9.1 through 9.8.
Second.
Roll call. Oops, my bad. So close.
Councilmember Budge?
Yes.
Councilmember Little?
Yes.
Councilmember Sander is absent. Vice Mayor Gatewood?
Yep.
Mayor Pulapati?
Yes. I will move on to consent public hearing items, and there are none. Any public comments on that one?
No.
Okay. We will move on to public hearing items, and I'll ask the city clerk to announce the subject.
Mills Crossing Specific Plan Amendment, Major Design Review, and Tentative Subdivision Map, Environmental Impact Report, SCH 20230-10102, prepared pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act, project number PLND 05240098, located at 10153 Folsom Boulevard with APN number 076-002-019-020-021 and 0222. 22. Sorry.
A lot of zeros.
I will ask Chance Finley Ross for the staff report.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Chance Finley Ross with the city's planning department. I'm joined with Corin Crawford. He's with Griffin Swinnerton. Tonight, we'll just be presenting the Mills Crossing entitlement package, and we'll just dive right in. Let's see. All right. So in May 2024, the Mills Crossing project team submitted an entitlement application to the Planning Division, which included a proposed rezoning of a portion of the Mills opportunity site within the city's Folsom Boulevard specific plan, as well as a subdivision of the 10-acre site into 7 new parcels and the construction of 3 community commercial buildings with associated site improvements. The application requests approval of a specific plan amendment, major design review, and tentative subdivision map. The proposed project is located between La Loma Drive and Paseo Drive and within the Mather Mills Opportunity Site, which the city has identified as a priority location for development. The Mather Mills Light Rail Station and the MAC are located to the south of the site, and surrounding land uses include Folsom Lake College to the east, multifamily and single-family residential to the north and northeast, and commercial uses to the west. So the application includes a proposed zoning change to the Folsom Boulevard specific plan, which would redesignate the proposed project site from residential mixed use to a combination of commercial mixed use, high-density residential, and medium-density residential. This would allow the Mills Opportunity Site to continue to align with the Folsom Boulevard specific plan goals for mixed commercial uses and housing types in this area, while future housing projects located in the Mills Crossing project area will undergo separate review under separate entitlements. The application also is proposing a tentative subdivision map to reconfigure the site into 7 parcels. The map includes new public streets connecting El Caprice with La Loma Drive, as well as streetscape improvements. The proposed parcels include commercial spaces, open spaces, and parking on parcels 1 through 5, medium-density residential on parcel 6, and high-density residential on parcel 7 to the east in the photo here. The subdivision map meets all requirements of the MAP Act and is intended to support a site plan that allows for adequate access and infrastructure. So, yeah, I'll pass it over to Cord now. He's going to talk a little bit about the project's design.
Thank you, Chance, and Mayor and council members. Great to be back and to give you an overview of the project as part of this entitlement application. Certainly, the Mills Crossing project is a several years in the making, and we've had a number of times to be in front of you to discuss the project. And so we'll go through this relatively quickly because in a lot of cases, what you see before you has been seen before, has been commented before. It's been well discussed and vetted. So quick overview, the project in general, sort of as the slide would indicate, really is, we talk about the overall site plan itself. It's really important to talk about how the whole 10-acre site has been master planned, 3 buildings, and then the open space elements. The overall site itself is at least for the Mills Crossing project, the whole master plan starts off with thinking about how to activate the site, how to stimulate economic development, how to provide community amenities in a way that is commensurate with its transit-oriented development, proximity across the street, how to take advantage of a high-density TOD node within the city itself. So the master plan places the community commercial buildings fronting along Folsom Boulevard to really activate the corridor itself. Opens up, as the name would suggest, as a crossing, creates an opening, a grand crossing across Folsom Boulevard into a public plaza. The public spaces, in a lot of ways, define Mills Crossing as much as the buildings themselves. And we always like to talk about how that creates an identity for the site. So overall, over 2 acres, close to 2.5 acres of public open space. The 3 buildings, which we'll step through, are clearly labeled there, buildings 1, 2, and 3, with a project green area towards the north. And then we really talked about how the housing parcels, which are separate applications to be done by separate developers down the road, but the housing parcels create, eyes on the street, a variety of different tenures of housing, whether it's rental, affordable, or ownership housing in housing parcel 1 itself. Building 1 is a mixed-use community commercial use. It's a 36,000 square foot building, 2 floors, and the proposed uses are to have a community health clinic, a community health and wellness clinic on the ground floor, 15,000 square feet, and 21,000 square feet as an anchor office, straddling both a portion of the first floor and the second floor. So we provide some renderings of Building 1. Building 2, we often describe Building 2 as a jewel piece of the project. It is a community arts center, a first-rate, high-class, state-of-the-art community arts center, really focusing on flexibility in both the performing arts and the visual arts itself. The genesis of Mills Crossing, as you all know, really starts with the arts and having the arts be a catalyst for all the types of economic development and community-oriented functions that the project and the council has directed us to conceive. 27,500 square foot building, and it has a variety of different uses. There's a 300-seat black box theater, a very flexible theater. There are a variety of flexible studio spaces that can be used as rehearsal spaces in classrooms for both community-oriented programming as well as to support the performing arts, exhibit spaces, and other flexible studios to support the visual arts, artist in residence programs, and the like. Concession space, a pre-function lobby, and then support spaces, and as well as a really nice rooftop deck. Here's a rendering of Building 2. And Building 3 is the community events hall with a small cafe shop in the front. It's a 96,000 square foot building, an event hall for up to 250 to 300 attendees, with a catering kitchen, supporting office space storage, restroom, and a leased cafe food use at the frontage of the building.
9,600.
Yep, did I say 96,000? 9,600. Thank you. And here's a rendering of Building 3. The outdoor program elements are an assortment of this slide really starts to demonstrate the various ways that the outdoor spaces are programmed. Anything from pre-function spaces to an event lawn, a trellis, and kind of a mini plaza in a trellis area towards the north of Building 3. Lots of places for seating, benches, events. The event lawn as well as the project green to the north provide a lot of opportunities for shared programming with the community college and other organizations, the tenants of the buildings themselves, to create indoor-outdoor programming opportunities, a wellness loop in the project green to the north, interpretive features for planted areas, places to sit and hang out. And here's a rendering of some of the outdoor spaces, all told 2.5 acres. And then so this is a follow-up, obviously, from our February 11th work session. The key topics that were addressed as a result of within the work session and what we continued to study afterwards really had to do with Building 2, the Community Arts Center, and taking a deeper dive into the configuration and flexibility of the spaces themselves. So we have a couple of points where we just really emphasize that the design of the space was really used to maximize the flexibility of both the indoor and outdoor spaces. Really want to emphasize the classrooms, the rehearsal spaces, these multifunctional uses that can be used for dance classes or, as I said, sculpture and pottery classes. A lot of art studios are really well equipped with places to rehearse as well as places to perform. And the architecture, which we're really proud of, just uses timeless, sustainable materials. And then we really did talk a lot about, and parking is going to be the issue that is just a continual thing that we check in on, and it's an issue where we thought a lot about, and we talked a lot about parking management strategies and parking supply and the different approaches and strategies, and how we arrived at the parking solution wasn't without an awareness of all the different challenges and with the different opinions that exist for parking. And we think we arrived at a solution that balances a need, the need for the parking with a responsible investment in public funds. And so we talked about how that will work and how parking will work within the existing community itself. And we talked about how parking can be satisfied within a parking ecosystem itself. I think that's it. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Gordon. So I'll just briefly give a summary of the parking for the project. So the project is following the zoning code requirements, which allow for up to a 50% reduction in required parking for projects within a quarter mile of light rail. The zoning code also allows shared parking for mixed-use developments, and Assembly Bill 2097 further removes minimum parking requirements within a half mile of light rail. There was a parking study that found that peak demand was 170 spaces, and the project is providing 181, including 44 shared with Folsom Lake College. The city is also able to pursue shared parking agreements for approximately 600 additional spaces. The entitlement phase covers commercial and open space parking, while the future housing developments are going to be providing their own on-site parking. I do also want to cover the requested deviations. So there were deviations for setback and pedestrian-oriented space standards. The Folsom Boulevard specific plan does allow for flexibility with its development standards if specific conditions are met, which Mills Crossing qualifies for. The setback deviation is for parking lot 3, which is to the east of building 3. And parking lot 3 places parking spaces within a 10-foot rear setback. So the exception would just be to allow these spaces within that setback due to site constraints. And for the pedestrian space standard exceptions, instead of excessive fixed seating, which the zoning code requires, the project includes 80 linear feet of fixed seating in the project green and 190 linear feet of fixed seating and 35 modular tables in the plaza area. So electrical outlets are also reduced to 5 and trash receptacles to 4 for safety and maintenance. These adjustments were designed to keep the project functional and adaptable while still meeting the overall intent of the zoning. The city also completed an environmental impact report for this project per CEQA guidelines. It started with a notice of preparation, which was released on January 6, 2023, and the draft EIR was released on June 7, 2024, with public comments accepted until July 22nd. The draft EIR was released for 45 days and received 7 comment letters on air quality, biological and cultural resources, tribal cultural resources, hazardous materials, and greenhouse gases. And the final EIR confirmed no need for recirculation. And the mitigation measures outlined in the mitigation monitoring and reporting program that is included with this EAR are expected to reduce all impacts to less than significant levels. So it would be important to go over the Planning Commission public hearing that took place on March 26th. So there was a public hearing that was held and in which the commission made a recommendation to council. The meeting talked about key discussion points such as reduced trash receptacles and electrical outlets, in which the commission agreed the trash bins were adequate but had concerns about future electrical needs. They also emphasized pedestrian safety, especially for people crossing Folsom Boulevard from the light rail or shared parking areas. And they discussed how parking demand could affect nearby businesses and residents. Concerns about the theater loading dock were also addressed by the project architect, and the commission accepted the design as is. They also reviewed site lighting and trash enclosures and found those both to be sufficient. So the hearing ended with a 4-2 vote to recommend that the City Council certify the Mills EIR and adopt the MMRP and CEQA findings, adopt the specific plan amendment, and approve the tentative subdivision map and major design review. To address the commission's concern, staff added a new condition of approval requiring that city staff ensure adequate electrical outlets in the plaza and green areas, and the commission also recommended that the council consider exploring feasibility of pedestrian overcrossing at Folsom Boulevard, as well as using vacant housing parcels for temporary parking until a solution can be found. So with that, staff recommends that the City Council adopt a resolution certifying the Mills Crossing EIR, adopting the MMRPs and CEQA findings, and introduce and waive the first reading of an ordinance adopting the specific plan amendment with associated exhibit and track changes subject to the findings contained in the ordinance, and adopt a resolution approving of a tentative subdivision map and major design review with associated exhibits subject to the findings contained in the resolutions for Mill Crossing. And with that, that concludes our presentation, and we are available for questions.
Thank you, Chance. I will open it up for public hearing and ask the city clerk if we have any comments.
We do. We'll start with those in the council chambers. Mita Kashat, if you'd like to come forward, we'll start with Mita. Following Mita will be Melanie Freer, James Garcia, Helen Whalen Bashaw, and Jeff Good. Mita, you'll have up to 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Mita Kashat. I've lived in Cordova Meadows for 54 years in the same house. And we have a couple of concerns about the project. And the first one I want to address is the open space. And it reminds me of a park we have maybe 3/4 of a mile from Mills Crossing. It's called Taylor Park. When Forrest gave that property to the park district, it was never developed. So consequently, 50+ years later, we have no facilities on that park. They threw in a couple of park benches, a couple of tables. They did have a fountain, water fountain at one time, which worked off and on. Consequently, because there has been no planning, they told us it was impossible to put infrastructure in to do a comfort station. This open space reminds me of Taylor Park. There is no place for a comfort station, and I don't know what people are going to do for facilities when they have big events on the green. And I would hope that before you get too far into this planning, that you talk about infrastructure. Where are the sewer lines? Where are the water lines? You can't have green space without some place for people to relieve themselves. And I thought, well, maybe you're waiting for the housing project to enter, and when you need to go to the bathroom, you can knock on somebody's door and say, hey, can I use your bathroom? So this is a major consideration if you're going to have successful events on that open space. And I have not heard anybody talk about that. I am really concerned, the second thing is that exit onto El Caprice into a housing area. I don't know how to go about fixing it. It's a problem to have such limited exits in there where you want a big crowd. But I would be very unhappy if I had a house on El Caprice and had the traffic coming in and out. I have permission from Bob to tell you that he and I both have really strong questions about this project. We hope and had hoped that it would be something that we would be really proud of. And it seems like it keeps evolving. And we're just sort of holding our breath to see how it turns out. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Melanie Freer.
Hello, my name is Melanie Freer. I am with the Rancho Cordova River City Concert Band, and I know several of you have been to our concerts. Unfortunately, tonight I am missing our dress rehearsal with a composer who is going to be conducting our concert this Sunday to make sure that we have voiced some concerns about this project. Now, they spoke of this project as being a catalyst, that building 2 for the arts in this area. However, as one of the largest performing arts groups in Rancho Cordova, I think it's important that we share that using this building for our group would be really, really difficult. And the reason why is, number one, as you guys know, parking. I appreciate the creativity of limiting the parking spots given how very little room there is. However, if you look at the math, it doesn't add up. 137 on-site spots with 44 over at the college campus. I know that there's across the street at the other place. However, we have 60 to 70 band members. Many of them are older. It's difficult to haul a tuba. And hey, I have a flute and a piccolo, and my bag is heavy. But it's really hard. It's not safe to be trying to travel across the street to be able to, save parking for our audience. So that's a major concern. Also, safety in the area for not only our members, but our audience. And also, it's come to light that this wellness center is actually incorporating a drug rehab component. My fear is that it's going to be a methadone clinic. I live near a methadone clinic, and it was not a very good situation. I appreciate that this area very likely needs it. I'm a nurse, I get that, but I'm really, really concerned. I wouldn't want to bring my audience, my band members, to this building, which is adjacent to that. So I have some really big concerns on that. Regarding the loading dock, there's like a little outlet for the truck to park for unloading. There's nowhere else for the truck to land after we unload it. And it's not a state-of-the-art loading dock. It's literally like a roll-up door next to this outlet thing. If we're trying to attract bigger groups to come to Rancho Cordova to make it the shining star, Lee Frechette in the other meeting was mentioning we need to put in a substantial loading dock, a proper one. And if this is what we want, we need to step it up a little. We need to have the parking spaces. 300 in that one building, 300 in another building, and another, wellness center. That doesn't equal 137 parking spots. I'm sorry, it just really doesn't. It needs to be looked at again. And I want to also invite all of you, please come to our concert on Sunday. It's at the PAC. We have lots of parking, and it's at 3 o'clock. We're having William Owens, our composer, coming out from Texas to conduct us. So we have a lot of fun planned. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is James Garcia.
Hello, James Garcia, resident of Stone Creek. I too am opposed to this project the way how it is stated, especially due to the parking. It is very, very hard to go ahead and have that, especially back in May of 2023. It had a parking structure. That was also on the master plan approved in December of 2021, also had the parking structure. Understand, if we don't have funding, that we shouldn't build it. There's no data also that's been provided that this is going to be a self-sufficient project. Having all the different mixed uses there, having the arts, who also is now showing the concerns of inadequate capability of having their own performers be able to offload, again, going across dangerous Folsom Boulevard and Mather Field. It is a very hazardous, dangerous intersection that was mentioned by Planning Commissioner who opposed this project as part of that 2 vote, opposing it due to being an engineer. He understands it. It is a safety concern. Again, how is this going to be self-sufficient? Having a drug clinic, again, that's not going to be light to attract the further out region that we are trying to draw into our city. This part of our city needs to be revitalized, but by having a drug clinic right next to it, that's not going to draw in people to our area. They're going to be like, no way. And then using public transportation, we don't have the proper public transportation infrastructure here. I was just in Boston over this last week. They have the subway system. Every 5 minutes, there is another train. We don't have that type of a train capacity. We don't have all the connectors that will happen. Having a bus stop there, no. We're also trying to detract people from crossing Folsom Boulevard, but we do have some metal fencing up median, which is great. They kind of did that up in Folsom High School because all the high school kids were crossing over and causing problems over there on Iron Point. We would have something similar with people trying to cut across and possibly getting hit. Having an overcrossing, that's going to have to be funded by us as our taxpayer money, but that also is not the best interest. Again, having elderly people try to go across an overcrossing publicly, that's going to be so unfeasible. Bathrooms in the open spaces is a vital thing, as also mentioned. We need that. We need more power outlets in there because it costs more to do retrofitting anywhere else if you don't build it at the beginning. I dealt with having to do office space redesigns, network drops, electrical. You need all of that now because it costs hundreds of times more than everything else. So this is a white elephant in the making. Traffic on, again, El Caprice, La Loma, they're already fighting for traffic. And now you're going to have not enough room in all of the apartments, all the mixed housing, because we never have enough in there. It's like 1.5 per unit. We're going to have a lot more needs, and they're going to overflow, and all the parking in this space is going to be used by them since we're not doing permits and assigned parking. I know I'm over. Thank you.
Helen Willem-Bashaw.
Hello, I'm Helen Willem-Bashaw. This is a white elephant. I don't see any data that proves all these events and needs for this project are actually needed in the area. What studies have been done? You have a wellness center. How do you know it's going to be used? And as they talked about, like drug rehab type stuff doesn't kind of work there, I don't think. The major issue with this piece of land is all the areas surrounding it on 3 sides have high density of cars. You're going to put in inadequate parking. You're going to say people are going to use adjacent parking lots. Who's paying the owners of those parking lots for the use of the parking lots? Is this going to be another thing that's going to be funneled to the city? The parking structure was in this presentation back in May of 2023. This was an agreement when I said to everybody, we have to make compromises, and the parking structure was part of it. Now you're saying it's not needed. You can't be pouring more sand or putting more cars in a neighborhood that's already saturated. I would like to know all these centers that we're building for the arts and stuff, how much of the public tax money, Measure H, Measure R, is going to support the groups that are going to be using this? This sounds like the citizens are paying for an item that's not needed in that area. If you were the private builder and your own money's paying for this, you don't have the data that supports what you want to do with this project. The light rail use, that area is a dangerous part of the city. You're not going to have restaurants open at night. You're not going to get, 4 or 5-star restaurants there. They're going to be like snack places or luncheon places and stuff. I just don't think this is feasible for the property. We've already invested a lot of money in cleaning up the chemicals. We've done a lot of sidebars, I bet, making this more lucrative for the builder. So how much is the city really paying for this? Do you want to be noted as all the council people and the city manager for supporting a white elephant that the taxpayers are going to pay for the rest of their lives for? We don't have the infrastructure for parking, getting to the event. We don't have the number of trash cans or the utilities, whether it be bathrooms or electrical plugs. This all needs to go in initially, but I have not seen anything that says what groups are going to come in and what data says we as a city need it in this area. This is a real critical thing. This is poor planning, and it goes against all basic management philosophies that you don't build something and say the people are going to use it. You have the data that says it's going to be supported, which we don't have. So, thank you.
Next speaker is Jeff Good.
Council, good evening. I'm Jeff Good, Vice President with Swinnerton and Central Valley Business Unit Leader. I wanted to offer a little bit different perspective on the project. Coming from the builder, this is much more than just a construction project. And I wanted to give you all a sense of the positive messaging that we're getting from the community, specifically from the trade partner community about the project. There are hundreds of tradesmen and women that work with subcontractors that we work with day in and day out, that live in the city of Rancho Cordova and spend hours every day commuting to projects in San Francisco, projects in the East Bay, projects up and down the Central Valley. And the number of calls that I've gotten and continue to get every single week about this project from residents of Rancho Cordova about when is Mills Crossing going to start construction, when can we get to work in our hometown, those calls are countless. And I think something that's unique about this project from a construction perspective is, yes, in total, it's a large project, right? This is a large development project. But if you look at the program that Corin and staff walked through earlier, the fact that it's broken up into smaller elements creates a genuinely unique opportunity for small and diverse business trade contracting opportunities, given that the buildings can be broken up and different trade partners can be assigned to different buildings. So it really is a truly unique opportunity, not just for the city of Rancho Cordova, but for the greater Sacramento area and the trade partners and the tradesmen and women that call this area home. So I want to thank council and staff for the support of the project and look forward to seeing this thing break ground shortly.
The last public comment was sent via email by Jim Garcia. It's been distributed to the council, placed on the city's website, and printed for the public in the back of the council chambers. That's all I have, Mayor Pulapati.
So I'm going to close the public hearing and ask council if they have questions, concerns on this. Go ahead, Councilmember Budge.
Okay. So just to follow up on a couple of comments that we heard. I am concerned about drug rehab in the wellness center. We've had concerns about that kind of thing in that area over off of West La Loma for quite some time. And fortunately, that thing went away. But it would concern me if, I would be concerned if this wellness center will not just community health and teen health, the way we heard from our high school population, or our kids at City Hall, that they were really interested in more things like counseling. not drug rehab. That would be a concern. There was a comment from staff about the setback deviation for the parking lot. If you look at that exhibit that shows the new 7 parcels, it looks like it's not just the parking spaces on the east side that are close to the sidewalk, to the back of walk, but also the leading edge of Building 1. And I'm just wondering, it's not that we need business professional 25 feet of landscaping, but when you put something only 10 feet away from the back of sidewalk, then you're really crowding into what ought to be, the sidewalk ought to be also part of the hospitable open space. There is one specific error. On page 11, it talks about Building 1 having the projection wall, but in reality, the Building 2 is the one with the projection wall. And I'm concerned about the sizes of the open space. Number one, we know that the village green is 5 acres. Number two, it says several times in the staff report that the open space between buildings 2 and 3 is 20,000 square feet, and that the open space to the north is 8,400 square feet. But just visually, if you look at the site plan, it seems like that number must be reversed. And then Corin says something about the total amount of open space being 2.5 acres, but 28,400 square feet is just a little bit over half an acre. So I'm not sure how we come up with the notion that it's 2.5 acres. But having said that, as I said in our workshop on the February the 11th, I really like Building 2. I love the fact that the people that are partnering on designing that building actually did one of my favorite buildings in Dallas, the Winspear Opera House. I appreciate the incorporation of public art. I'm sorry that I would really be interested more in knowing about the concerns about the orchestra and the concert band, because we really don't, aside from the fact that somebody else said about drawing in performances from all over, we just really need to make sure that our own performing artists have hospitable space. And I appreciate the fact that you can't carry a tuba across the street. I probably couldn't carry it across the parking lot. But so, Building 2 has what looked like a very nice loading dock, but we just need to make sure that it really does work for the artists who need to use it, whether they are performing arts or visual arts. And there's a picture right at the beginning. There's an exhibit right at the beginning that shows that parking lot to the outside of the loading dock with trees in it, but those trees are being replaced with solar. And it may be that solar is important for this project, but solar and building Building 1 is like 25,000 square feet. And 42 feet tall. But is the solar tall enough that it extends above the height of Building 1 and Building 2? So that's pretty much all you see? I asked staff about the intent for taking the 4 parcels and expanding them into 7. Typically in real estate, the reason to create a bunch of parcels is so that they can be sold off individually. But we don't think that's going to happen. I just would be interested in knowing why they're expanding from 4 parcels to 7 parcels. What's the thought behind that proposal? I understand in the EIR you needed to address the former contamination from veterans cleaners, but I think probably a lot of us are under the impression that that underground contamination was cleaned up several years ago when the buildings were torn down. There's a comment in the staff report about the compromise was for trash receptacles was 2, but in each parking lot. And the theory was that people who put on special events there would bring in their own trash receptacles. And that's generally accurate in the village green. But if you've just come to hang out, and you're getting something from the cafe right there, you're obviously not going to go find the parking lot to throw your coffee cup into. So there needs to be some provision for just normal trash receptacles adjacent to the basic open spaces. And the landscaping, we're seeing a trend. Thank you, State of California. We're seeing a trend in non-hospitable landscape spaces. And if this is going to be successful open space, we need to ensure that it's people and little kid friendly and not a bunch of pokey plants. There is some conversation about native grasses, and native grasses are not necessarily nice to sit on. So those are my questions and comments. And the project is great. We really need this. We don't need it to be everything. We need to create an everything spot someplace else, but we need there to be the same kinds of opportunities for other parts of Rancho Cordova that we have for the people who come to the Village Green. This is a lot different in a lot of different ways, but it can be a part of the offerings that we have for the entire city, as long as it's designed correctly. I realize we had a workshop back on the 11th of February, but there's way more information in this staff report than was presented that day. And it's also been informed by the comments from the Planning Commission hearing. So we're really seeing a lot more today than we got last month or 2 months ago.
I think, Mayor, if I may, I think maybe the project team can kind of go through and kind of answer some of those questions as the best of their ability, keeping track of those items. And if they need to be reminded of some of those ones that they missed, Councilmember Budge, they can do that too. But I think I'll allow Corn and the project team to answer.
Yeah, and if you can also answer media's questions on the use of the green space and how they relieve themselves to those answers, that would be great.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to address some of these questions and concerns. I took some notes, and so I'll try to go through each of those, but if there are some things that I've forgotten about, we're happy to readdress that. We've also got Jeremy Hart, who's from LPA, and he's on Zoom, I believe, and we can bring him forth for being able to answer some questions also, especially with regards to dimensions and space allocations and the like. One of the comments mentioned with a couple of the speakers, as well as Councilmember Budge, one of the first ones you mentioned was a concern about drug rehab in the wellness center. And, the wellness center has not been designed on the interiors. Its program is not finalized. And part of the council's subsequent approvals of Mills Crossing really involves approvals of the partner for the wellness center. So there hasn't been a partner approved by the council or selected by the city. There are obviously negotiations going on with multiple partners who have multiple different offerings. So it's just frankly not accurate to say that there's a drug rehab center in the wellness center itself. And obviously the council gets to make that decision. The entitlement process that we're working on from an approval standpoint really is a design approval and a planning approval. But there are still more, conversations to be had with the council around the next series of agreements and financing and the overall development plan, which we hope to, as we continue moving forward with the project, to come back to you with, in the fall, I'd say, right? Like, August, September, October. And so there will be other opportunities for council to weigh in on the programming and the partners that would occupy that. So that's sort of like the first one to address. We talked a little bit about the amount of open space within all of that. And so when we look at the totality of the open space, there's the core plaza itself. There's a mini plaza with the trellis area to the north of Building 3. There are gathering spaces there's an outdoor pre-function space and gathering spaces out in front of Building 2 and in front of Building 3. There's sort of like a side plaza or a side kind of courtyard between Building 1 and 2. And then there's the Project Green to the north of the site. So when you just kind of go through and you encircle all of those different spaces in the nooks and crannies there, that's where it gets to the combined open space quantities that we talked about, over 2 acres. And I love the point that this is a part of the city's offerings. We recognize that the Mills Crossing project from a design standpoint really takes advantage of the TOD node opportunity within the city. We have a number of different things that we're fitting into a pretty complex site plan. And so we've been able to, we feel like it's a nice additional offering for the city to be able to talk about a way to get densified buildings as well as ample open space in a pretty tight property, including the housing that would be there. You talked a little bit about the loading dock, and we had a lot of conversations at the Planning Commission with regards to the loading dock. I think if Jeremy is available, he can speak to the process that we undertook for the design of the loading dock. But that was the overall design of Building 2 and the different features was led by Theater Projects, and Theater Projects is one of the nation's leading theater designers. That's all they do. They've got sort of 4,000 different theater spaces throughout the country that they've designed with. LPA hired Theater Projects to be the theater specialist. We had surveys. They came out in person. We had, in-person workshops with the local arts groups within Mills Crossing. And so they gathered a lot of very specific feedback from the arts community within Rancho Cordova. And they also just Theater Projects leverages just their nationwide expertise for how to design different spaces. And again, it's a matter of optimizing what's in the box and what's outside of the box. But the loading dock was sized appropriately for accepting a whole variety of different performing arts as well as visual arts applications. And so that's how the adequacy of the loading dock was generally come about. And then I think that, the loading dock is one thing, that's the amount of space that's included is another thing, but we still have conversations with council around the operations of it all too. So the building is the what, and how it's operated is the how. And so we all know that how spaces are used, how equipment is loaded in and out of a building has operational solutions that can be made to be convenient and adequate for different performers, different functions, and so, or different arts organizations. And so I think it's a combination of how the operations would generally work with how loading takes place in addition to just, kind of a, dimensions of a space itself. So we think sort of on balance, this is workable, and ultimately the Planning Commission got comfortable with how loading would work in Building 2 itself. Solar, I think this rendering speaks to the solar, and just in terms of how the solar canopy looks, tucked behind.
This is a good perspective.
Yeah, tucked behind the buildings themselves. And then, just providing the solar, we're balancing a number of different things. Most importantly is Cal Green. And so, just satisfying Cal Green. We had parking shade canopies that were required, as well as just providing on-site energy generation is now part of Cal Green. So this was something that was arrived as a solution to meet planning code, as well as, some of the space requirements itself. Building 1 is 36,000 square feet, 2 floors. And I think that, again, Jerry might be able to speak to this, but we've had a number of different conversations about building setback. And given that this was an opportunity site, we actually have more building setback than what the opportunity site wanted, in a way. We had to get an exception to create more setback for Building 1 and Building 2 and Building 3, I think, than what the code was saying for a high-density opportunity site that really wanted to emphasize buildings pushed to the street edge and as a means to activate Folsom Boulevard. Again, that is my recollection for the conversations that we've had, and Jeremy can certainly speak to that. I know he must be taking notes while I tick through some of these.
Corin,
why don't you do that? Yeah.
The building setback on Building 1 from face of curb to building is 16 feet, which again, as you noted, was less than, we've pushed it back to create more of a buffer. And then as you note, Buildings 2 and 3 have a deeper setback, closer to 35 feet from face of curb to building.
The 7 parcels. When I think about how we thought about the parcels themselves, there were a couple of things that were driving that. Obviously, one, we've got the right-of-way dedication of the interior street, so that's sort of just a separate matter. There would be the two housing parcels are just their own separate parcels because separate developers. So that now we're kind of down. I'm just kind of process of elimination. So now we're down to 5 parcels. The Project Green in the middle, just sort of being that it's its own island, really lends itself well to creating itself as its own parcel. So those are kind of like the 3 parcels towards the north of the site. And then one of the reasons why we broke up the parcels, at the towards the front of the property, the parking lot is well served to be its own parcel, just given that it's public space, public parcel dedicated for that purpose. That's 4 parcels, and then we created a parcel for each of the buildings. Building 1 has its own parcel, Building 2 has its own parcel, Building 3 has its own parcel. The reason why that's actually really important is that Building 1, as an example, Building 1 is a recipient, we're going after new market tax credits for Building 1. And so from a financial structuring standpoint, you need to have that one parcel isolated in its own parcel, so to speak, so that it's structured as such. Similarly, we have a $7 million grant for the Health and Wellness Center in Building 1, and that has its own sort of deed of trust and deed recordation of the grant. So you wanted to isolate the financial structure in a parcelization for building one, and that actually is a risk mitigant for the city. So you're not cross-collateralizing financings on building one across other different buildings themselves. And then a similar kind of conversations go along the lines for how building two and building three work. There are a lot of different reasons from a funding standpoint, and just thinking through how to make sure that each of the buildings can have different financing structures and different use structures, different tenancy structures, different risk mitigate structures and insurance regimes across those three different structures. So that's sort of like a real, that's the deep dive into why the 7 parcels. Trash receptacles and electrical, when we want to talk about the capacity, some of the outdoor amenities, and including trash. I'll get into public restrooms also. The trash receptacles, we worked with planning staff to put together a pedestrian plan that calls for trash receptacles, it calls for electrical outlets. And our weekly working group that we have with city staff to go through this is a great working group. It's got all types of perspectives from staff with expertise from public works and housing and planning and facilities. And so when we looked at the pedestrian plan, we got lots of feedback from public works as well as facilities around some of their concerns about actually managing outdoor spaces in Rancho Cordova. And so we created the amount of, and we do have trash receptacles. So, and I think the number 6 or so, maybe, I'm off the top of my head, I don't remember exactly what the number was in the pedestrian plan itself. But we have public trash receptacles distributed throughout the various outdoor spaces, including the Project Green to the north and the Plaza to the south. And we tried to balance staff's concerns about having too many, which operationally can be a big time challenge. Off the top, operationally it can be a challenge to provide for that when you start factoring in cleanliness, sanitary, smell nuisance, and just taking trash, hauling it in and hauling it out. So operationally, we tried to create an optimal solution given that type of feedback. The same can be true about electrical outlets. It is a condition of approval that we revisit electrical outlets and increase them as needed. And we just talked a lot about the fact that electrical outlets, a lot of the public, unfortunately, tries to poach electrical service. If you have outdoor electrical outlets, that will start to attract, a use that we might not necessarily want to attract in these public spaces. Especially, we're highly sensitive to the fact that this is an improving area of Rancho Cordova, but it's still transitioning and it still has security and safety issues. So we had to get the feedback from facilities and also just our community outreach. We know how to contend with an emerging area and how operationally you're going to have to think through a number of different lenses for what type of amenities you put into public spaces. The same can be true about public restrooms. So having publicly accessible restrooms in open spaces presents a real operational challenge. And so building 3 is the building where you can actually have controlled access that the city controls, and you walk into building 3, into the lobby of building 3, and the restrooms inside of building 3 can be used for the public rather than creating public restroom kiosks. So we did try to strike a balance between having secure, operationally controllable spaces that the city could control, with an ability for the public to be able to utilize restrooms conveniently off of the entrance to building 3, as an example. You could employ a similar strategy with building 2 also if you found out that the need for the public restrooms was greater than what the public restrooms in building 3 provide. But we think that that's the nice balancing act, right? Like balancing security and safety, operational cleanliness with the need to provide facilities for the public. And so we thought, let's do it inside of buildings and control access into the buildings themselves in order to solve for that. I think that's it.
Councilmember Gatewood, any questions?
Sure. Well, I don't like doing a project without parking, so I'll just start there. I think us putting this is going to make everyone from the apartments and everything around there park in our spaces and lock down this spot. So I always thought we should put a parking structure up. I know we can't have that yet. That's why it's not there yet, because we do need a parking structure up. And I think if we're going to have events here, 60 people, let's say 2/3 of them drive, that's most of our stuff. If they had 45 to 200 people show up, a quarter of them with cars, we would max out the space before the houses and the apartments even went up. So I don't see how this space can really function that well without having some sort of parking structure. And I always thought that was kind of cool, because then I could get the community members, because we all know that street that you have to drive down is scissor packed as soon as anything happens there. There's no parking on that street up and down. So if there's a way we can fund that, I'm all ears for that kind of thing. I do kind of agree. Can you go back to the picture that shows the actual layout? You missed it. Go back and go back. No. There. Oh, so close. Okay.
You want the more 3D?
No, I like this one because it's good, because that's where my parking structure is supposed to be. I kind of agree with, I don't agree with having, the bathroom thing kind of bothers me. The way that I would set it up is, I don't know if we can do this, but I know that in a lot of park districts, which we do, the bathrooms themselves will auto lock. And yeah, it does take some cleaning and stuff like that, but there's nothing worse than having toddlers and then trying to run to the space off the park back into a space across the street to go take them to use the bathroom. I was almost, I don't like how our park district does it, where they build a park without a bathroom. We have way too many of those, and it just makes the space unusable the minute you have little kids. And so I'm kind of under the opinion that we probably, as we're doing more of this, need to talk about dropping a bathroom somewhere in there. And who was the group you said came here that talked to us? The professional group that you said, what was the people you hired?
Oh, Theater Projects.
Yeah, who is it? Is it the name Theater Projects?
Yeah, the name of the company is Theater Projects.
Did you talk to Theater Projects? Who did they talk to in my city? Because this is the only orchestra band we have.
Yeah.
There's only like 7. We only have 7 groups that use this stuff. Our orchestra band that uses KP. Love you guys, by the way. I'll be there. Make sure I don't get a baton though. Are you getting a baton? You in the baton thing?
No, they have a guy coming from out of town.
All right. Well, just remember Christmas, I'm just saying. And then there's 2, and there was 1, maybe 2 theater groups. So I'm curious who they talk to in my group. And what I always say with a lot of this stuff is, I have a staff, but I like to know these kind of things.
I understand.
I love my staff, so some of the stuff that kind of surprises me, because I'm kind of finding this out, and I feel bad for you guys, because you guys keep looking at it change, and this project is constantly changing, and adapting is great. No, we aren't doing. It's not a methadone clinic. It's a clinic for wellness. But if someone needed something like that and they are in a community and they had to go to that spot to get something, that's where we want it. It's mostly for our high school guys. They were really excited about having a counselor, because we don't have that at our school districts. And so, having a group like them willing to come in to our lower socioeconomic groups and serve kids of multiple languages that are struggling out there was something special that with this group. So that's something we really need. But we do need the parking, and I would like to hear about putting a bathroom over there, because it's disjoints an area. The minute you have to run, you have those great parks over in some of our communities, and the parents can do like a lap before they have to take their kids back home to use the bathroom. And even if they lived in the community, they're only gonna go to the green until the kid has to use the bathroom. Then they gotta put them all back together. And nothing's worse than trying to take a toddler to the bathroom across the street, in the schooler, back over there, so they pee on their pants.
It's not just kids that need to go, you know.
When Siri gets upset because she has to leave the green because she used the bathroom that's across the street. Because, and just for Joe and Joe's edification, we're still designing this as we go along. So if there's something that really gets on your irk and your side and you want to change, same thing, we can change it. Like Linda's right. Like, my band group didn't get a talking to. They need to get a talking to because you're one of the things that makes the city special. And now I'm concerned that the other arts groups didn't get a talking to because we only got like 5 of us, so it's not like it's hard to, and we're very open to talk about our dreams. So now go back and ask them who they really talk to, who in the different groups we talk to, and of those groups when they came in to do this decision. Because if they can't get the oboe in, and the most important players really are make sure the saxophone players get there. That's right. Because
I'm not sure about this because if you're performing, you'll probably be there early and you'll be closer to the parking and you can get in. You don't have to park across the parking lot if you are a performer.
But they got to bring all the equipment in on the
Yeah,
truck.
and they could come
right?
closer,
you throw
right?
it all in the truck and then you roll it up. But then there's some people that can't take the truck, I guess. And then how do you pull it back out? And Linda, you're our space and planning designer. How'd you let this get through? Huh?
I think it might be good to hear kind of the outreach that was done with the different arts groups, and I think there are some things operationally you can do to actually allow folks to come in and drop off their instruments and do different things as a
That's what I
drop
would
off, and
assume,
then
yeah.
and then not have to carry them from
Right.
the
And
farthest
then
parking lot. But I do think it'd be good to talk a little bit about the outreach that was done with the local groups because I think some of that was done. Maybe didn't get to everybody, but I will maybe want to hear from the team as far as what some of that outreach
And
was.
before you respond, I'd like to hear if Councilmember Little has some questions so you could all answer at once.
Get it all at once. Keep it going. All right, Joe, you up?
So I got and nothing I say today matters, but
Yes,
I
it
was
does.
elected
Stop it. Matters.
in front of a train that I cannot stop. This project, in my opinion, is a train that I cannot stop. But I'm still going to express my concerns. I think this is one of our legacy vanity projects. We're outside of our lane. We're talking about the arts. Pretty sure we're roads, police, potholes, sidewalks, that kind of thing. Don't know why we're doing this. I think it's a fiction. I understand it's a source of funding, but it's a fiction that this is a transit-oriented project. I think people saying that haven't been on the light rail recently. Your typical light rail user is not going to see performing arts, and this is not going to encourage them to do it. I get that we're having an anchor tenant that's low-income healthcare because that gets us money. I just kind of makes me beg the question of why we're combining the two. If there's a need for a low-income healthcare, why are we using it to build a giant debt obligation? I think we all got sticker shock in that special session, seeing how much debt obligation we're taking on to fund this project. I'm worried that our local arts community has too much influence over staff and our council. I have a feeling that once this is built, we're going to see the same people we see at every event, and we're building this for them. We're not building it for the people who don't show up here, who don't come to everything we host, who are the real citizens of Rancho Cordova. They're not civically engaged. This is not for them. This is for our friends, I think. Basically, yeah, that kind of debt obligation is the stuff to try and take a dent out of real social problems. There's no lack of access of media and entertainment, of ways to entertain yourself, Rancho Cordova, anywhere. So I have major problems with this, and like I said, this is a speeding train that I'm stepping in front of and I can't stop. But this is the kind of stuff I was elected for, to say, I think this is stupid.
So one thing I'd like to address is we have communicated it many times about the wellness center and what the use is. And as of this time, it's like the applicant mentioned, it's a placeholder for what it is. It's not set in stone on who the partners are and who what they will and will not be. So that we have, it's still under consideration because I did have my concerns about when it was first presented the way it was. The other thing, the parking, the pedestrian safety is a huge concern. We do need to make this a place that the residents of Rancho Cordova can go to and go with their kids because we do not have such a place right now in Rancho Cordova. And the whole point of this exercise, the multiple community meetings and having the applicant present over and over again is so they come to a consensus to see what is needed in that place and what is something that we as residents of Rancho Cordova can go to with our family and enjoy. Right now, we don't have green spaces. We do not have places where we have entertainment. So from that perspective, there is a need for such a kind of a civic center. That is my personal opinion. But how we position it that all the 80% of the residents are actually going to use it and enjoy it is what we need to come to agreement with. I do agree with you, Joe Little, on that one point of, we might not have a lot of residents going to use the light rail to use the Civic Center. So, but in spite of that, the parking is a pain. So maybe we will encourage them to use the light rail in order to come to the Civic Center. So it may work the other way around. With that, I'll pass it on to the applicant to answer these questions.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, let me just go over it again, just to talk through the notes. We obviously have parking that's come up and, again, we can dive into that. There's the bathroom conversation, again, happy to address that. Arts groups outreach, that's kind of a big one, which I'll get into, certainly. The healthcare, the local arts community, is this potentially going to be expanded to more than just the local arts community? I think that's a really important thing that we could talk about. Usage of light rail, parking, pedestrian safety, those are kind of like the high level points there that we can get to. On the arts outreach, it really has been done over several years. So even prior to our Griffin Swinnerton starting this project, the city commissioned business plans, feasibility analyses from arts consultants within the region, specialists in the region. AMS Performance and Planning was one of the firms that the city hired and produced feasibility analyses for the need for the arts in 2017 and 2018. And we kind of inherited that data and that analysis for the needs for the arts back in 2017, 2018. And then we hired AMS to continue the work to study the arts. In a lot of ways, what they did is in 2020, when we started, they redid a whole new arts survey and reached out to the arts community that is within Rancho Cordova. And in some cases, it was an update for the findings that they had for the conclusions reached in the feasibility analyses done for the arts programming. And in some ways, it confirmed a lot. It added more data. It added more insight to it. And then we repeated that same arts outreach in 2022 and 2023. And so when you ask about who did theater projects reach out to in the Rancho Cordova community, we do, and we can share with you the kind of the database of contacts that were generated through that. I'm not going to be able to just off the top of my head list them all out, but I know that we talked to arts groups like the Hummingbird Theater Company, Rise Up, NorCal School of the Arts, CalCap Theater. Those are some of the ones just sort of like off the top of my head. We did a lot of engagement with the MAC and Cheryl Gleason and all of her members and all of her community. She was super helpful with us. So I know that we contacted, in addition to the arts organizations themselves, I know that we were in touch with over 50 individuals who are either individual artists, individual performers, all of which are a part of the Rancho Cordova community itself. And that was done both in online surveys as well as in-person workshops held at City Hall here and in the MAC itself. And so, the challenge, I think, with a project that takes this long is that we can say to ourselves, we've got the benefit of all of this data that was generated in all these studies back in 2017, 2018, and then you say, well, is there something more recent? We did it again in 2020, and you say, okay, well, that was, around that time, it was during the pandemic. Is there something more recent? We did it again in 2022 and 2023, and then we're sitting here in 25, and you say, okay, well, what's the latest happening in 25? So I think that staff, leading up to the February 11th workshop, I want to say in the fall of 24, also engaged with the arts community again, and that helped to kind of, in a way, just keep ourselves current for any arts organizations that have changed, whose membership has changed, who've taken a notice for the project. And so I think what happens is we balance this idea of saying, we've done extensive outreach over the last sort of 6-7 years, but every year someone else learns about the project anew, and we get to take in their feedback. So I do think city staff has been in touch with and provided us the feedback from the folks in this room who represent the arts community for their thoughts on the building. And so when we get all this feedback from all these different organizations on the one building, some of the feedback is actionable and some of the feedback might conflict, right? Like some of the feedback we got from some arts groups who favor one thing might be in conflict with some of the feedback we get from arts groups that might favor another thing. And so how do you reconcile it all? That was the process that we went through with our theater designer, with the city staff and the city work group to get the feedback to present in front of you, sort of what we view as the consensus solution that took into account the feedback that you just get from lots of different perspectives and lots of different interests, some of which might not be compatible with each other. So that's the arts group's outreach. And we certainly can share with you the database of the individuals and the names to give you a more robust picture, but it wasn't for saying that it wasn't done, certainly. What's that?
Say it again.
I said we can share with you the database of all of the organizations we were in touch with and all the individuals that we were in touch with from the arts community.
I don't think anyone's disputing that you've done your outreach.
Okay. No, yeah.
We were just asking if you talked to the oldest group we have, or one of the oldest groups that we
Right.
have. And so now I'm curious, when we're doing this, if we didn't talk to the oldest ones, like, is Hummingbird even here there still? Who was the one that left? Hummingbird? Rise.
No, that was
Rise Up,
Rise.
yeah. We talked to Rise Up, we talked to Hummingbird, and I believe our city working group also talked to the arts groups that are here today as well. That was done, I want to say, in the fall, and last summer and fall. Okay. Yeah.
Who's my city working group? Are you guys there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
That's all I meant, right?
No.
Yeah, I'm just
It's fine.
trying to, yep.
Lots of words.
We've got the parking, and again, with the parking, it just really comes down to the cost of the parking structure, and is there a different approach? And so we talked a little bit about that in the February 11th working session. The restrooms, it's a really good point, the outdoor restrooms. Yeah, I think that we're open, really. We provided the idea of outdoor public restrooms was something that we looked at, and then at the advice of in the collaboration that we had with city staff, we came up with something to say, is there a way to provide for the need for facilities in a way that that wasn't necessarily an outdoor restroom kiosk for operational concerns.
Well, frankly, considering considering the challenge of maintaining public open space today, it seems to me that you really have come up with a good solution. The reason that the Park District stopped building restrooms in their parks was the fact that they went through a period where the original bathrooms at what's now Dave Roberts Community Park and at Hagen Park actually got blown up. And that was way before, we had any problems with the homeless or cleanliness or what goes on in bathrooms or anything like that. But I was on the Park District Board at the time, and they just flat out had to stop building them because it just wasn't feasible. The one that's at Village Green, there was a point where the neighbors actually would go over and lock it every evening, and I know that the Park District manages to take care of that now. But somebody on staff, and city is just coming to terms with what it means to have a facilities department that maintains things besides just City Hall.
Yes, certainly.
Or city buildings. So it's really only appropriate that we help them out by designing alternate solutions. And this sounds like an alternate solution.
Yeah, that's what we tried to do with the alternate solution, certainly there. One of the biggest things we're concerned with just is this, if you have an outdoor restroom kiosk, is it going to be a place of vandalism, right? And that's got to be something that is secure 7 days a week, morning, evening, and night.
And it really is important. Garrett has a great point about little kids. When we lived across the street from Riviera East Park, there's somebody we all know who's not here tonight who would tell you that every time her little kids need to go to the bathroom, she knocked on our door and we let her use the restroom. But that also speaks to the concept of who's going to use this space. I mean, who is the public that's going to use this space? And frankly, all you have to do is be at anything in the Village Green, whether it's the Christmas tree lighting, the International Festival, the concerts in the park, the movies in the park. It is always a multi-generational, multicultural group. There is many little kids running around to watch the movies because they actually, at times, they program movies that are little kid movies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not always like that, but there are always as many little kids there as there are adults, and it's all Rancho Cordova people. When you go to those things, you see your friends and neighbors there. And if it's not the people you've known for 40 or 50 years, it's people who have come to live in our neighborhoods from other cities or other states or other countries. And so the celebrations that we are so privileged to have community council to put on draw in absolutely everybody from Rancho Cordova.
Thank you, Council Member. I'm going to ask the city manager for next steps.
Sure. So let me provide some options. I think the request before you tonight is to approve the entitlement for the application for this project. I think what makes this conversation a little more interesting than other entitlement approvals is we're also the owner and the developer. So not only are we the applicant for the most part, but we're also the owner and operator. So sometimes these conversations wander between kind of the project delivery, but also the entitlement. And so I think based on the conversation that I've heard tonight, I would actually recommend probably that we continue to the item because some of these questions are related to probably the operation and not necessarily the entitlement before you, and making sure we answer some of those. I think that it was always the intent to we always had a big next step in this process, which was bring the actual funding and those questions to the council at a later date. This is really just the entitlement of the envelope, I'll call it, as far as for the project. As a lot of the details of some of the conversation that we're having are related to funding and some of those things, whether it's parking garages. But we want to make sure we get the entitlement right to make sure we have those as part of the options moving forward when we get to that funding conversation. And so what I would not hear, and kind of probably the ability to anybody to craft a motion to make adjustments to it today, I would just recommend that we continue this item to a later date to have this conversation with some more of those details and maybe some additional conversation around the funding.
Do we need a motion to continue?
Yes. Do you want it to continue to a date certain or date uncertain?
I will look to the project team a little bit, and if we have a date to send it to. Otherwise, we just renotice it.
Just renotice it.
What do you think? A date uncertain?
Yeah. You want to make a motion to date uncertain?
David, Stefan?
You're looking at each other.
Yeah.
You looked at him. Stefan looked to the right. Look left.
I think, why don't we just do this? I think we have enough time to renotice
thumbs up
it,
from
so.
the back of the room, so go for date uncertain.
Yeah, I think that's what we're hearing, a
Okay.
date uncertain.
All right, then I will make that motion.
Second.
City Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Budge.
Yes.
Councilmember Sander is absent. Councilmember Little.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gatewood.
Yes.
Mayor Pulapati.
Yes. With that, I will move on to regular calendar items, subject 12.1, and have the city clerk please announce the subject.
The subject is Economic Development Strategic Plan Update.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. I'm Amanda Norton with the Economic Development Department. It looks like on my end, our slideshow is loading. While I begin the presentation, you can go ahead and move to the next slide to frame our discussion for this evening. I'd like my members of my team who are present in the council chambers tonight to go ahead and introduce themselves.
This is an ethereal.
She's coming to you from Hawaii.
Oh, boo! That's ridiculous. I'd like to listen. I'd like to motion that we advance this to a date uncertain.
Aloha.
Week. Are you in a hotel right now?
I am.
No, she's by the beach.
Ah, so rude.
Yeah. She's working on
Damn, we are slave drivers. Get on the phone. I don't care if you're in Hawaii. I want economic development. All right, go ahead.
Ashley Covey, Economic Development Analyst.
Laura Fickle, Economic Development Manager.
Boo, use
First
the
day on
mic.
the job.
Wow.
Laura Fickle, Economic Development Manager.
Lydia Thung, Economic Development Analyst.
Thank you. So tonight we're going to be covering a lot of ground. We're going to be covering not only our economic development strategic plan, some various elements of it, and then walking you through kind of our next steps. Can I have the next slide, please? So as some of you may recall, with our economic development strategic plan, it was a 3-year plan. And really it's designed to fill us in the next 3 years as we get into alignment with the city's general plan update, which is currently underway, will also be completed in about 3 years. So this first year, which we did approve this excuse me, I don't believe that Councilmember Little was on the council chambers. This was actually approved in November of 2024. So we kicked off really the work around the December holidays and really full force in January. So this first year, what we're going to be doing is doing the work that we already do day in and day out, but building upon that, establishing some additional markers as well as some growth indicators, really then expanding into the work in years 2 and 3. If I can get the next slide, please. So for the plan this evening, it's broken up into 3 major sections. One, our business development section, placemaking and real estate, and workforce. In addition to this being a 3-year plan, what you will also see going through this slide deck is all the work that we're doing. You'll see the goal number attached to it, and the strategic plan is attached to your packet, which you will also have there. The other thing that goes along with this is when we are working in this area, there are 4 main target areas that we are looking into, and target areas, excuse me, in terms of industry sectors. Those are manufacturing technology, which is one, fintech, healthcare, and the life science sector. Next slide, please. And at this, I will pass it along to Ashley Kobe.
Thank you, Amanda. As Amanda has outlined, our economic development strategic plan has helped us define our vision, set priorities, and begin building the infrastructure we need to grow and support our local businesses in meaningful and measurable ways. One of the key components of that foundational work has been the implementation of Microsoft Dynamics as a centralized contact database system for economic development. We lovingly call it the Econ Dev Hub. It's more than just a database. It's a central place where we can capture and track the work that we're doing across the department. It's designed to give us clarity, consistency, and continuity in how we engage with our businesses and partners. The work we do spans a wide range of activities: business attraction and retention, grant management, business incentives, site searches, business assistance, and more. We're constantly moving across different priorities and sometimes tracking projects that'll take years to come to fruition. The Econ Dev Hub integrates with the Microsoft tools we already use, like Outlook, Teams, and Excel, and we're also able to customize it around our specific workflows. This isn't just a contact list, it's a fully functioning project communication platform. We're able to track outreach and follow-ups, log business assistance and incentives, monitor the status of high-impact projects, and quickly generate reports based on real-time data. The key feature for us is that it also captures the full history of our communication with our businesses and partners, so if someone steps away or a project transitions, nothing gets lost. We're taking a phased approach to make sure that we get this right. Beginning in December, we mapped out our current processes and determined how the system would be structured. We're currently in the process of setup and pilot testing to work out all of the bugs, and by the end of April, we'll train the full team, migrate data, and go live with our system. The biggest impact this will have is giving us one central hub where we can manage all of the work that we do.
I was feeling that with their song.
So Ashley, you're saying that this is a software that you'll be using internally?
Correct, yes, it's internal for our team.
And why are you presenting it here?
It's part of our strategic plan. So
Internally?
Internally.
What has that got to do with the city or the public here?
It's the way that we're implementing our strategic plan. It's one of the foundational goals that was identified for us to track the work that we do so that we can be more effective when we're out with the public and speaking with businesses.
Is this something that the public can use, or is that something that changes their perspective of working with the staff?
Down the line, there will be different phases that we roll out, and eventually we will have a public-facing piece of this platform, but we're not at that phase yet.
Okay.
Speaking about the work that we do, business assistance is at the core of our operations. So for us, it's kind of a catch-all term. We assist businesses from startup to expansion and anywhere in between. I like to describe the work that we do as translation services. We serve as a go-to resource for businesses, coordinating across city departments and external partners to streamline communication and problem solving. The process of opening up a business is unique in every jurisdiction. While there are a lot of similarities, there are also nuanced differences. Our team is able to connect businesses to key internal staff and external partners like chambers, utility agencies, and resource providers to keep projects moving. Since the kickoff of our economic development strategic plan in November, our team has provided assistance to 78 businesses. Of those 78 businesses, 52 of them were provided support and navigation services. For us, that looks like answering questions and facilitating our development services team meeting. The team meets with businesses, sometimes even on site, to review proposed projects, provide fee estimates, and identify issues that may arise in the process. This one-stop shop team assists businesses and developers as they navigate the permit process, submit plans, and ultimately guides the projects to completion. We also provide assistance with site searches. Often we are taking the unique business needs into account, like ceiling clear heights, loading docks, gas services, etc., while also providing appropriate zoning guidance in partnership with our planning department. Of the 78 businesses assisted, 15 of those requested assistance with site searches. Our team also has business incentives and grants that can aid our businesses depending on their needs. If their needs are beyond services we can provide, we also have the ability to refer our businesses to outside agencies. Typically, that's when there's a need for access to capital, business plan development, federal or state compliance, and grant writing. Of the 78 businesses, 19 of them were referred to outside partners for assistance. In addition to work that I've highlighted, we're also engaged in 5 active early-stage projects that could bring major investment and jobs to the city. These efforts involve deep due diligence and cross-departmental coordination, oftentimes needing to be tracked over multiple years. Our team actively works to reduce barriers, build relationships, and support businesses. I will now turn the presentation over to Laura to highlight our targeted business development initiatives.
Thank you, Ashley. So building on this work that Ashley's going over that we do on the daily basis, with the help of the Econ Dev Hub, we're formalizing our efforts through a business retention and expansion program. This is going to include a building upon what we already do, but personalized emails and phone calls and proactive outreach and business visits in our target industries, where we'll be identifying support and any potential expansion opportunities, as well as identifying and resolving issues throughout the business community, as we already do. In doing this, we'll be looking to strengthen the local business climate, increase job retention and expansion, identify and reduce barriers to growth, and encourage long-term investment in the community. Being able to track and manage the information we gather during our business visits will help inform future initiatives and programs. Another way we're strengthening the local business climate is through programmatic entrepreneurial support. The Chamber's Embark program is for any level of entrepreneur looking to improve their business acumen. The EO Accelerator is part of the Global Entrepreneurs Organization Network, and the Sacramento chapter will be hosting their accelerator right here in Rancho Cordova, offering year-round learning, accountability, and mentorship to entrepreneurs earning between $250,000 to $1 million in annual revenue. This will not only activate our office park, but also provides access and opportunity for us to engage with the businesses scaling up in their journey and demonstrating the viability of doing business in our city. Also, Startup SAC, a leading nonprofit who manages much of the startup ecosystem in the region, is hosting 2 happy hours here in our Barrow District, where they'll feature entrepreneurs from our city as guest speakers in their popular Ask Me Anything fireside chats, facilitated by Cameron Law with Sac State Carlson Center. We will be exploring other initiatives to attract and support entrepreneurs in our targeted industries and mapping out our ecosystem to provide a clear path for entrepreneurs in their journey. Looking ahead, we will be working closely with the Communications and Public Affairs team to build out and implement a strategy that highlights the city as an attractive place to do business and share about existing businesses in the community. We have resources on our website now, and our BRE program will help inform a more refined business resource platform that will focus on the user experience and have a more user-friendly interface. Our grants, incentives, and sponsorships will focus on our target industries and help move the needle on the goals in our strategic plan. After the business development, the next area of focus in our strategic plan is placemaking in real estate. This is an important component to preparing our city for the workforce and employers of the future. The Newmark Playbook. This is in partnership with the Greater Sacramento Economic Council. This effort will provide a playbook for our region, including specific sites in the city, to be able to prepare for and accommodate the semiconductor and EV battery related businesses looking to locate or establish in the region. They're going to do this by assessing Sacramento's current position with the targeted industries, identify high potential segments in each industry to target for business attraction and expansion, evaluate the region's infrastructure, workforce, and real estate for readiness and gaps, benchmark the region against others using simulated corporate projects, and then they plan to deliver strategic recommendations at the end of June of this year. The purpose of the office park study that we'll be conducting is to evaluate the feasibility of improvements to our existing office park and to provide recommendations that will enhance the appeal, functionality, and long-term viability in an evolving market. This study will help answer the question of how to best support and attract more users like Solidigm, allied healthcare users like UC Davis and Dignity Health, AI-focused companies like Human Machine Collaboration Institute, and life science companies like Thermogenesis. These all provide high-wage jobs in our community. Looking ahead, we're really looking to align all of these efforts. Later this year, the Newmark Playbook and the Office Park Study will have concluded, and the general plan update will be in development. It's important that we align the data, recommendations, and strategies to be as intentional as possible for the future readiness of our office park. The physical infrastructure is just as important as the human infrastructure. Lydia is going to now give you an update on past, present, and future workforce initiatives.
Thank you, Laura. Let me fix my mic here. As Laura mentioned, for this section of the presentation, I will be sharing the conclusion of our workforce development programs that occurred prior to our strategic plan and current and future initiatives to help accomplish our workforce goals as outlined in our strategic plan. Last May, we shared the preliminary outcomes of our workforce development programs that we funded through the American Rescue Act, also known as ARPA, from 2023 and 2024. And the reason why we're providing this update today is because when we came to council last May, there were 4 of our programs who had not fully finished out their programs or doing any job placements. And with the investment that the city has made into our workforce development programs, we really wanted to close out the program and then set the tone for our future workforce partnerships. So through our workforce development programs, we had the intention of addressing the economic impacts of COVID-19, particularly those related to job loss and industry disruption. Since the last update in May, all of the programs have concluded. The city utilized ARPA funding to make targeted investments in workforce development, recognizing that a well-trained workforce is central to both economic recovery and long-term resilience. On this slide, you will see the 10 organizations that we partnered with to deliver workforce programs. The foci ranged from trade programs to healthcare to general services to technology. So on this slide here, we outlined some of our outcomes of the workforce development programs. So the city invested $1.59 million into workforce programs. Within our programs, 226 Rancho Cordova residents participated in the training programs, with 120 completing a program. Of the 120, 87 individuals earned industry certificates or credentials, which are crucial in positioning them competitively for employment. And 68 graduates secured employment, indicating real-world impact beyond just training programs. These outcomes show that our workforce initiatives are delivering measurable results for local residents. The heat map that's also depicted on the slide here also indicates that all of our neighborhoods were represented in our workforce programs. On this slide here, you'll see a chart with some metrics and indicators that we really wanted to focus on when we released the Notice of Funding Opportunity. There were numbers here that were from the Employment and Training Administration workforce development programs. We did outline our targeted goals, and we were very ambitious in that. However, I will say that we were able to hit, if not double, some of the performance compared to the Employment and Training Administration workforce programs. So on this slide, you can see that 53% of our participants completed a training, which was above the 47% national average for workforce programs. 38% earned a credential or certificate, which surpassed the 37% metric by 1%. And this highlighted that our programs are equipping residents with marketable industry-recognized skills, and 33% found employment in fields directly related to their training, which by far outperformed the 17% national goal by double. And this was a key success indicator showing that our training is not only relevant, but in demand. While the metric for non-training related employment of 23% came slightly under the 24% metric, this suggests that more graduates are staying within their intended career path, which reflects program alignment with employer needs. I also wanted to share some demographics about our residents who participated in the program. So the data on the slide reveals strong age, gender, and ethnic diversity among participants, reinforcing that the program successfully engaged in a broad range of Rancho Cordova residents. In terms of the ethnicity, 47% of our participants identified with our ethnically diverse population, While the highest participation of our participants came from the 25 to 34 or 35 to 44 age groups, we also saw meaningful engagement from more mature residents and younger adults, indicating the program's multi-generational impact. So understanding that the long-term tracking of program participants was an interest of City Council, the city partnered with Human Machine Collaboration Institute, also known as HMCI, to collect data and insights on the professional and career progress of our participants. The post-program phase allows us to measure the employment outcomes as well as assess whether job placements are leading to professional and economic advancement. From our most recent survey, we had a 40% response rate. The employment rate also rose from 27%, which was the pre-program employment rate, to 44%. The average annual income that was last reported was $58,000, which is a $25,000 difference from the pre-program average salary. There was also a 45% salary increase from the pre-program. You will also see a sample of employers that hired our participants, which includes companies such as Solidigm, Laborers Union, SK Hynix, ProCare Therapy, and Bonnie Plumbing, to name a few. And we have also implemented a post-program gift card program. So from our last post-program survey that was done last May, we had a response rate of about 19%. To address this, the city launched a gift card incentive program offering a $25 e-gift card to participants who completed the survey. As a result, the response rate rose from 19% to 40%. The increased response rate helps us strengthen the validity and reliability of the data, making it a more useful tool for any future initiatives that we may implement. So the next post-program survey will be activated in June of this year. And with that, we are concluding our workforce development programs. And the city is evolving our approach from a city-led effort to employer-led solutions. The city is partnering with the Rancho Cordova Area Chamber of Commerce to develop long-term industry-aligned talent pipelines and foster cross-sector collaboration. The partnership will enhance the city's reputation as a place where businesses can grow because talent is accessible and well-prepared. It'll also foster inclusive growth by making sure all residents have a pathway to quality and in-demand careers. The Chamber activated the first collaboration last year, focusing on the manufacturing industry. Sorry, going back a slide. The Chamber will also be reporting out to City Council at a later council date with a recap of the previous agreement that we had with the Chamber, as well as an update on the current agreement that started in February. In their council presentation, they will also be providing a more in-depth progress report on the Talent Pipeline Management Program, as well as Embark, which is the Minority Business Assistance Recovery Kickstart Program, and other initiatives that the Chamber is doing in collaboration with the city. The city is also partnering with organizations to address barriers to workforce participation, such as access to reliable transportation and access to digital tools and training, especially for small businesses. We have a partnership with the 50 Corridor Transportation Management Association, also known as the TMA. The city is investing in understanding and addressing transportation barriers that impact both workers and employers. The Public Works Department recently executed a contract with the TMA to engage directly with residents and local employers to identify challenges related to commuting, parking, and public transit. The Economic Development team is ready and willing to assist the Public Works Department in any outreach that they will be doing to any of our businesses and help manage those relationships and also foster them as well. This initiative is crucial to understanding transportation barriers and solutions to job access. We are also looking forward to a partnership with the Chamber of Commerce to provide artificial intelligence, also known as AI, digital literacy, and training for small businesses. This training program will target businesses with 1 to 50 employees who may be vulnerable to digital disruption but might not have in-house technology expertise. It'll also help introduce tools and workflows using artificial intelligence for marketing, productivity, customer service, and operations, and it'll also equip businesses with practical, applicable skills to automate routine tasks and stay competitive in a fast-evolving market. These partnerships support our broader business community, creating resilient, future-ready businesses that can scale, hire, and contribute to the local economy. And with that, I will pass it back to Amanda to talk about future projects.
Thank you, Lydia. So as I mentioned, we framed out the work that we currently work on, in addition to our economic development strategic plan work as well. One of those avenues we have been looking at is developing a retail strategy. We recognize that retail, while it doesn't usually fit within the particular industry verticals that we would be targeting that lead to high growth in terms of job creation in the city, but we also recognize with that comes the things that our residents and business community desires, and one of those is retail. So we're going to be looking around a specific effort on that going forward. In addition, as Laura had mentioned previously, we are standing up, we have a website that currently functions and does great work for our community, but we think it can be better. So we were looking to upgrades that will better meet the business community and help them link with not only services within the city, but external partners as well. Partnership is very important to the work that we do. And then thirdly, really, we've touched some of the work we've been doing in the entrepreneur ecosystem. We tend to always think of that as tech entrepreneurs, but the entrepreneur system is a little bit broader than that, is what we're looking for. And so some people have already done a lot of that mapping from some of our partner organizations, but we're looking to take that and see what other opportunities we can do to support the entrepreneurs that we have here within the city. So on that, I would like to go ahead and take us to the next slide that kind of closes out the general conversation that we were having today. What we are looking for you, members of the council, is we are planning on, this was a quick 3-month summarization of the work that we have done. What we are proposing to do is actually do these annually at the end, so that way you get a full year of the work that we have completed. And this time, if you have any questions or comments or feedback for myself or the team, we'll be glad to answer them.
I'd like to ask the city clerk if there are any public comments.
We do not have any public comment for this item.
Going to pass it on to council for comments and questions. Councilmember Little? No. Councilmember Budge? Okay, it's up to us then. Vice Mayor Gatewood.
I'm very excited with all the stuff you guys are doing. I think you might want to add in the whole reason we're switching to dynamics is to be able to show really good reporting, because Siri is really, and I are both interested in showing actually how well we're doing with the numbers we're bringing in. So that's good that you're advancing to newer technology besides Notepad and DOS. Oh, so painful.
Kidding.
So painful. I love the idea of the business park assessment. I think it's funny that people from that group, the nameless group in downtown Sac, that are building stuff are doing stuff that we already have internally in-house. So having our own AI group or women in data or human integration learning group that could do our business park study to us, because the big future, of course, is AI enablement, technology that can further around them. Our great partners in the back, you know who I'm looking at right there, sir, that are coming into our city, that are helping our city become one of the technology hubs in the area. And now I found out that Siri got to go and see something awesome, which I'm super jealous about, which is data centers. Did you? Well, you didn't invite me. I wasn't invited. I'm not going to let that happen. I'm not going to be mad about that at all. But I like the fact that you guys didn't push the envelope, bring us more business. And then I know it's not in there, but as you're doing this, show profitability. Show what money is generated for our citizens of why we do all this economic development. And not just, like we brought in these businesses. Even if you took over the numbers, because a lot of these are Fortune 500 companies, you could take the general revenues that they're earning, and we happen to be part of that. Diane, as you are our kingpin when it comes to all small business in Rancho Cordova, showing who's coming in, who's getting the jobs, who's benefiting from all these programs, whose jobs were created and now taken, what were the small businesses that took advantage of this, if they're willing and able to say, hey, we did this good this year, they don't have to tell us how the structure, but yeah, we were able to earn over $1 million. Thank you so much to Rancho Cordova. All that matters because it shows how aggressive we're trying to do, especially if we're going to take the stuff and you're going to make it spit out into the websites, showing people how we're flipping the dollar, because that's why I think our biggest way that we stay in front of our partners around us is we are always in the black, and we're always trying to find ways to double and triple our revenue when it comes to economic development. A lot of cities are trying to figure out how they're going to cut right now. We're one of the few cities that's saying, how can we position ourselves to always be growing when it comes to economic? I mean, like if we could figure out a way to take the data centers and turn them into, because now it's selling power for all our big Fortune 500 companies like Solidigm that are coming in the area. You can take areas that are very non-buildable and put these data centers there that can bring in so much power and revenue and jobs into our area that really can help out the entire community. So those are those kind of things we're really looking for. So as you're developing those technologies, we want to hear about how you're actually doing that. Revenue is most important. I know we're great, and how many businesses we're bringing in is very important. But if we could show also the revenues that could possibly be generated from those, I would love that in the quarter. Like, hey guys, great news. Another 154 businesses came in, and we generated somewhere around, $450 million for the area in general. That kind of number means something to me because I know as we're growing our overall revenue, that helps us deliver better services to our community. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I'm going to break up my comments into 3 parts. The first half where you talked about Dynamics 365, I don't think that was relevant to the conversation here at City Hall because what is it useful to the public? Is it making their applications easier? Do you have a new chatbot for the website? Why do we want to talk about it? So the public is interested and we have some relevant questions. If something internal, great, but I need a so what? So why does the public want to know about it and what is the advantage to them? Is it great use of their tax dollars so it's making their lives better? That's the kind of information we need to see when we give a report out on software that you're using internally. Part 2, on the workforce, the updates from the last couple of years or the last one, 80% of the folks that got jobs were from the 20% of the people that provided the information or the training task force. So it's really nice that moving forward, we're sticking to local companies to provide this talent pipeline. That way it's companies that are in Rancho Cordova that are working for residents and building that pipeline within Rancho Cordova. So that is something that is very much appreciated. It's a win-win from both the business perspective and the residents. And in fact, I'd like to take it a step further and see how we could tie it into a local school. So that is the pipeline that we would like to see from the schools to the companies that stay in here, not getting a third-party company and paying them $500K or something and then not seeing the output. So that's really good, the switch that you guys made, that's wonderful. The third piece that I want to see, as I have seen in these comments, was AI for small business. Now, I know AI is like this catch-all term that we use, and small businesses don't need AI. They need to know how to grow their business and the kind of support they need. We can provide from that perspective. They need cybersecurity help. So if you're putting cybersecurity under this catchphrase of AI, I probably get it, but just reading off, AI is not what isn't something that small businesses need. They need to know how to expand their business, how to promote content creation. If you're giving that kind of support under this catchphrase of AI, then great. But as is, AI is not going to help our small business win customers, save business, expand business, or anything to that effect. So those are my comments in today's presentation, but great job for putting it all together. And it was really a well-rounded presentation. So thank you.
Mahalo.
Have a great vacation. Hey, don't you love your job? All right.
Okay, I think with that, thank you for your presentation. City Manager, any comments? If not, we will move to agenda item 13 and ask for future agenda items.
No, but I would ask that tonight we adjourn in honor of Pope Francis.
I was going to say that.
Recording in progress.
Yeah.
Recording stopped.
But we adjourn at the end, right? Yes, okay, perfect.
Recording in progress.
That is hilarious.
Before we adjourn to closed session, are there any public comments related to item 16.1?
There's no public comment.
Okay, with that, we adjourn to closed session.